Hello everyone, welcome to the EarthtonesGirl Channel and the No Fear Sock Knitting class online. My name is Denise, and in today's class we are going to cover helical knitting and how it applies to socks. I am so excited to share this topic with you today. I fell in love with this technique last year, and oh my gosh, it has just become a bit of an obsession. So today's class is going to cover what helical knitting is and how it applies to sock knitting in particular. It can be applied to other techniques, and I'll go into that once we start the actual hands-on demo. But we're going to talk about how to stripe two colors, and some of you can do it with other colors. For this tutorial, I'm going to be doing it with two colors, how to stripe them with each other so that you don't have a jog. They're just one round stripes, and how the colors work and dance with each other to not get any jog. So we're going to cover all of that, and we're also going to look at how to place the heel and how to line the yarn up so that there's a smooth transition between the heel and then continuing to work in the round with your colors. We are going to look at a shadow wrap or a short row heel, in particular a shadow wrap heel, but you can use any short row heel technique, and also a heel flap and gusset. Okay, and here are just two little samples for you. So we are going to learn how to do this. Oh my goodness, it is so much fun. Get ready, everybody. Ooh. Get ready, and let's get started. Let's learn something new today. So let's start knitting our socks, everyone. As you can see, I have cast on and worked my cuff, and I am now going to add my second color. What I like to do, now let me say up front, I'm going to be doing this on demonstrating this on two circular needles, but this method can be applied to any sock knitting method you choose. Two circulars, magic loop, DPNs, double pointed needles, or a 9-inch circular. The method itself does not matter, the technique will be the same. What I like to do after completing my ribbing is work one plain round, all knits, in my main color. So let's do that now. Once I come around to almost to the end, I'm going to weave in the tail of the new color. That way I don't have any weaving to do at the end. So let's do that together. I'm going to knit across, get my needles into place. I'm going to start knitting across, and then I'll meet you back here once I'm on the other side. So here I have worked across the first half of my sock, and I am almost to the end of the second half, and now I am going to add my contrasting color, my second color. So I'm going to find the end, I'm going to pull the yarn between the needles, and that tail is going to hang in the front. Okay, I'm going to take my main color, which is right here. And this weaving in technique, I have a full tutorial for. I am doing the same thing in that tutorial that I am doing here. So I am now in position to weave in the second color. I'm going to go into the stitch, drape that over, knit, and then I'm going to knit the next stitch. I drape the yarn over the needle, knit, go into the next stitch. And as you can see, I am trapping the yarn so that it is being securely put into place here, and I don't have to worry about that coming apart. And now I have woven in my second color, and surprisingly, you really don't need to do this over many more stitches than that. I've done this over 6. If you'd like a little more security, you can maybe do it over 8 or 10 even, but I don't really think it's necessary. So now when I come around, I am going to drop my main color. My second color is right in place, and I'm going to explain how to manage all of the threads in just a second. And now I am ready to start. I've knit one plain round, and now I'm ready to start knitting with my contrasting color, with my stripy color. Whoop. Okay, get my yarn into place, and I just start knitting. This technique looks much more complicated than it really is, but I assure you it is very, very simple. So here we go. And now just start knitting. And you can tighten up all of your edges later. I usually pull that second needle under just to avoid a ladder, and I'm going to just knit with my new color. Now, I'm going to knit across, and what I like to do, and I say this all the time when I am doing a tutorial, this is not the way to do a technique. This is my way of doing a technique. There are many, many ways to knit various knitting techniques, whether that's increases, decreases, working helical stripes. There are many variations. This is how I do it and have achieved success every time. So I'm going to knit all the way across, and I know for those of you who are used to my tutorials, I like doing things in real time. I've knit across half. I'm going to turn and knit across to the second half. Now this tail right here can be pulled in to the inside of your sock and just left in place. Just tuck that in, and that is completely out of your way, okay? Now here is my main color waiting for me to knit across. So let's do that together. And I like to drape my yarn outside of the needles so it's a little bit easier to grab when I'm ready. So let's knit across. Here I am in my main color. Pop that needle under so I avoid a ladder, and I'm going to work across. Okay. Now for this technique, I am going to stop 3 stitches before the end of the new color, of the old color. So I'm coming across. I have 1 more to go. And here are 3 stitches before the end. Here's the first, here's the second, and the working yarn is coming from the third. So now I am done with my contrasting color. I'm going to drop that. I'm going to slip through those 3 stitches purlwise. You always slip purlwise, if not your stitches will twist. I'm going to now turn, bring my yarn to the other side. Again, I just find it a little easier. It doesn't get in my way. And now I'm going to continue with my main color. And you will start to see the magic of the stripes. And by weaving in your end on that first plain round, there is no gap. Your end is secure, and you can just keep going. And now what we're doing here is, there we go. We now have that contrasting. We have 1 plain round, as you can see. We have our beautiful contrasting color, and now I'm working with the main color again. So let's work across a little bit, and then I'll meet you back when I have a little bit more done and you can see the progress. Now this is the second sock in this particular pair, and as you can see, I've got a little bit more going here. Look at how pretty that looks. So exciting. Here is my main color, the white. Here is my contrasting color. Now let's talk about helical knitting in its foundations for just a moment. It is basically, when you are knitting, you are not knitting in a circle. Okay, it may look like you're knitting in a circle, but you're actually knitting a spiral. So the color, each round is stacking on top of the previous round. When you are working helical stripes, what's happening is the colors, each color is spiraling on top of the other. So the white is spiraling on top of the purple, etc., etc., etc. So you've got 2 spirals that are basically happening at the same time. So it's almost as if they're quote unquote chasing one another. So here is where I am on another sock. Now let's talk about managing the yarn here, okay? Because it can get a little bit tangled, very easy to untangle. It's not like a giant mess as if you're doing a Latvian braid, if you've ever seen that. So I'm going to work across to the color change. And as I said, I like to keep the yarn that's waiting for me, just let the strand hang in the back. If you let it hang in the front, I find it kind of gets in my way. I don't know why. I don't like seeing it draping over. It's really personal preference. You can keep it there if you like. I like draping it to the back. I get my needles in the right place and I'm ready to keep going. Now, I'm sure I'm going to get the question, why do you stop 3 stitches? Can you stop 2 stitches? Can you stop 1? Can you stop 4 ahead? It is really up to you. I believe the main reason why, and I've done a little bit of research on this, one of the main reasons why you want a few extra stitches is if you butt the stitches up, and some people have had much success with not doing 3 stitches. They'll as soon as they get to the next color, they'll drop it and keep going. So it's only 1 stitch. Some people have success with that. In my experience, I start to get a bit of a line of demarcation where I'm butting up if I don't do more stitches in between the change, okay? But again, if you'd like to do it that way, or if you've seen it done that way, again, this is not, there's no right or wrong, so you go ahead and feel free to do it that way. So here I'm going to come across. Let's do another change together. Always tuck that needle under so you avoid your ladders. And I'm just going to knit across. Okay. There we go, almost there. This technique is so much fun. And you can really get into a rhythm with picking up one strand, dropping the other strand. So here I go. Now, another thing to note, as you are knitting, the beginning of my round is where the tail is. That's the beginning. Once I start talking about where to place the heel, I'll go into a little more explanation. But for now, the beginning of my round is here. But when you're working on the leg or foot of the sock, the beginning of round doesn't matter that much, okay? It really doesn't. Because the colors are spiraling, that beginning of round doesn't matter in this sock. If you're doing a plain vanilla sock, does not matter at all. All right, so I'm going to slip my stitches. I've just done that. Go into the next. Now, let's talk about tension for just a moment. You see there's a tiny bit of a gap in here, okay, between the white and the purple stitch. If you want to give this just a little bit of a pull, you can do it with the other end of your needle, or if you have a spare, I have an extra set of needles because I'm using 2 circulars, but you can just give it a little bit of a pull if you think that the stitches look a little too loose, and then you can keep going. Okay. Again, once you get into a rhythm, you don't really have to worry about that tension. They'll pretty much stay even, but every now and then, because I'm doing a tutorial here, I do find my stitches can look, because I'm stopping and going, I can get a little bit of a gap. Okay, so I just give it a very gentle, you saw it was just a very, very gentle tug. If you were using magic loop and don't have that extra needle, an extra DPN or a cable needle, or even a hairpin, ask me how I know, will come in handy. So you're just going to keep going. And that is basically what you're doing. Now, what happens if you end? So, okay, so I've just finished that round. Now, if I turn, you can see that my strands are crossing. So I'll just do that. Okay, and I don't even, it's not even that much of a gesture. I don't want this to seem so labor intensive. I'll just move it over. Sometimes I don't move it at all, and I'll just kind of let them wind each other for a little bit. You can also flip the other way. So I finished here, okay, and I can flip, which way is it? This way, flip again, and then flip this way, and then once I get to the end, I can flip again. That way you're not always moving back and forth with the yarn. All right. So let's get myself untangled here because there's lots of flipping going on. Get this one back here. My contrasting color, my purple, is coming from the back. I keep that back there and I'm here. Now, what happens if you stop, for the sake of example, let's say your contrasting color, the purple, which is, of course I can't find it now, which is here. Let's say it was on the end. All right, and it was maybe here. So I had one stitch here, so I had to slip one and then slip two. It's okay if the slipping staggers over two needles. That's absolutely fine. No matter where the strands of yarn land, you are always going to be slipping those 3 stitches, okay? So don't worry if some are on one needle, some of the stitches that you're slipping are on one needle and some are on another. It does not matter, just keep going, okay? The only time that the position of the yarn becomes important is when you're ready to start the heel, all right? So let's do that now. As I said in the intro for, yes, here's another helical sock in progress. As I said in the intro for this tutorial, I'm going to be demonstrating how to do this technique with 2 different heels. With a short row heel, for this example, I'm going to be doing a shadow wrap short row heel. You can do a German short row, Japanese short row, does not matter. And I'm also going to demonstrate it with a heel flap and gusset. Okay, so let's get started. Now, right now I've done my cuff and I just felt like I was a little bored and wanted to change up the cuff. You can do whatever you'd like. So my cuff is all finished. My leg is 15 rounds and ready to go. And now I'm going to plug in my heel. So let's talk about, this is where yarn placement becomes important. Because again, we're knitting in a spiral, what I want to happen, I need my contrasting color. In this case, it's a purplish pink color. I need this pink color to be on this side of my yarn so that once I finish working my heel, my short row heel, I'm going to work across and pick this up and continue knitting on my foot. So right now I want my heel to be in this white color and it's in the perfect position to start working my heel, the short row heel. So it's right here on the edge, same as if you were working it for any other sock. It's right here on the edge. And I am now going to start working with the white because I want a white heel. All right, now once I'm finished the heel, and I'm going to show you all of this, I'm just giving a brief explanation first. Once I work back and forth and finish my heel, there's still purple stitches. Okay, can you see that? So once I'm finished with the white, I'm just going to continue around until I meet back up on the other side with the pink yarn, or purple, it depends on how it's looking for you. I'm going to meet back up, stop 3 stitches before, pick that up, and I'm back to just working in the round, and I'm going to work my foot. Now, this may throw some of you off a little bit, but there's a front and a back, and should the heel be in the front or should the heel be on the back? That's not a hard and fast rule for me. And it's really not a hard and fast rule when you're using this technique. The most important thing is making sure that your yarn is in the right position. So if that means, let's say this may be the back or needle 2 for some of you, it's okay to put the heel there. If the yarn happens to be, if the leg of your sock is the length you want it to be, and your strands of yarn are on needle 1 or needle 2, it does not matter. Go right ahead and put that heel in. Okay, this is what I mean by there's no one way to knit your socks. It's the way that gets the job done. Okay, so my yarn is over there hanging out, waiting for me to finish working my heel, and it will continue to spiral. It's really going to look like magic once we get there. So my yarn is in the right place, and I'm going to start my short row heel now. Now I'm going to work my shadow wrap short row heel in white. So I will knit across, and I'm not going to knit the entire heel for you here. If you've never knit a shadow wrap short row heel, I do have a tutorial for that here on the channel. I will link that in the description box under this video. But for now, it's to demonstrate how to get the heel in the right position and how to get the yarn in the right position to knit the heel. So I'm working across. I'm going to do a couple of these rounds, these rows together. So I'm almost to the end. And here I am at the end. I'm going to pick up the strand, same way I would if I was doing this heel and everything was the same color. I'm going to knit right in there, work my first twin stitch, and I'm going to turn. Now I'm going to go into the next stitch on the purl side, give a little tug, whoops, give a little extra tug there, and I'm going to purl back. Here we go. Sometimes silence is golden. Gives you a moment to think. So I'm almost to the end of the purl side. Okay, 2 stitches, knit this one. Oops. I'm going to move this over. I'm going to work the purl, the twin stitch in that purl. Slip those 2 stitches back to my left needle and turn. And my first 2 twin stitches, I'm just putting my needle there so nothing slips off. My first 2 twin stitches have been created, and I'm going to continue working back and forth and work my entire shadow wrap short row heel. Once we are almost to the end, I will show you how to continue with the contrasting color on the other side. It really is magic, so get ready. So as you can see, I have now worked my heel. Doesn't that look pretty? So I just wanted you to see I've got 1 triple stitch left on the left side and 1 triple stitch left on the right side. So let's rejoin and continue helically knitting. So I'm just going to work across. Okay, almost to the end. And I'm going to work that last triple stitch, just like 1 stitch, if you are familiar with a short row heel. And now I'm going to turn and continue knitting. I'm going to pull this to the other side because it's just easier to manage. And I'm going to knit across to 3 stitches before the color change, and then I'm going to work that last triple stitch. So let's do that together. Give a little tug. Always give a tug at the intersection to close that gap and avoid a ladder, and also to tighten up on that triple stitch we just made or just knit into. Here we're going to knit across. And as you can see, as I said before, what side the heel is on does not matter, okay? It only matters if you're working in a color work pattern, for example, or a texture pattern where that positioning is part of the design. But in a stockinette stitch sock, it does not matter. So here we are, 3 stitches before. So I will slip them, as I said, as if to purl. Give a little tug, pick up the pink, and I'm going to keep knitting across. I am back to knitting in the round. I am continuing my helical stripes, and I'm about to resolve that last triple stitch. I'm going to turn. Okay. My white is over here, right where we left it, and now I'm going to work and work right into that last triple stitch. Tuck that under and continue. Give another little tug, and I am back to knitting helically in the round. And there you have it. My stripes continue. You can see that on that side. I have resolved my stitch, and I'm going to keep working in the round. So I'll finish this half around with you so you can see. I'm just going to shift these so I'm not tangled. And I'm going to knit across. Super simple. Just remember to take your time. There is not a race. These tutorials, as I like to say, are Denise on demand, so you can re-watch as many times as you need to in order to get it. Here I am back again at the other side. And I keep going. And now I will continue to knit. There is my main color waiting for me. Let's knit over to it one more time. Let's see that again. Do a little real-time knitting here. Almost there. One more. And I am back to change color again. Slip, slip, slip. Again, you can kind of tighten with your finger a little bit or with an extra needle. I wanted to show you that again, and I'm just going to keep going. We'll knit to the end of this part of the round. And there you are. You have now knit in. Here is your sock. Here's your cuff, your leg. You have now knit a short row heel into your sock, and you can continue knitting down on the foot. And there you have it. So next up, I will show you how to do this with a heel flap and gusset, and then we will wrap up with the toe. Okay everyone, so here we are with the next type of heel. Now we're going to learn how to insert a heel flap and gusset with the helical technique. Okay, this definitely requires a little bit more planning and precision with where the two yarns are coming from. Okay, so as you can see, I had dropped my purple color, which is right here, and I picked up my white and I was happily knitting along. Now this white happens to be in the perfect position to start the heel flap. What you ultimately want is for the contrasting color that you're going to use. I'm trying to pick up the purple here. There we go. What you ultimately want is for the contrasting color, okay, to be on the left side of your sock, and the other color, whether that's your main or whatever you want to call it, your second color, to be on the right side of your sock. Okay, that's what you have to do. That's the positioning. So right now I'm going to work across, and I'm going to do all of this with you in real time. Again, you're not worried about the beginning of the round. That is not as important with this technique. It's the positioning of the yarn that is important, okay? As long as your heel is on one side and your instep is on the other, they're interchangeable with this. It does not matter which is which, okay? So I'm going to knit across and get my contrasting color into the right position. And I'm just knitting across this side of the sock. Okay, and what I am inadvertently doing, but it's also to my advantage, is I am knitting the first row of the heel flap. Okay, so let's come across. And now, just to be consistent, I'm going to knit across, or not consistent, but just for aesthetics, I'm going to knit across here and get my contrasting color in the right position, and I'm just going to knit these stitches. If you wanted a stockinette stitch heel flap, you can just knit a row and purl a row. If you wanted a slip stitch heel flap, for me, what I'm doing here is knitting the first row, and then I will start slipping on the purl side. Okay. And actually, it may even be easier to just purl across. So you'll have 2 plain rounds, and then you can start your slip stitches, again, if that's the heel that you want, on what would be the 3rd row. Okay? Now, that's a lot of options, and some people may get a little confused. That's one of the reasons, one of the things I love about sock knitting is you have a lot of choices. There are no hard and fast rules. There is no one way to do this. You really do have a lot of choices to get the effect and the look that you are after. Okay, so let's keep going. Here we go. Okay, so my yarn is now in the perfect position. It is on the left side of my work and in the perfect position. So when I'm ready, I'm going to turn and purl back and start working back and forth on my heel flap. All right, now what do I do with this strand? Okay, I want this strand to be on the right side, but it's in the middle of the work. So how do I do that? I need it over here because I'm going to, once I return to knitting in the round, I'm going to pick my stitches up from this side. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is slip these stitches, and this does not, whoops, okay, there we go. My yarn just got stuck on the join. This does not affect the helical. Oops. Why is this giving me such a hard time? There we go. Okay. And you know I like to leave those little things in because sometimes this happens for other people as well. Okay, I'm just switching my yarn. So what I'm going to do here, okay, is grab the other end of my needle and I'm going to slip these white stitches onto my left needle so that I can knit across and have my purple yarn on the right side of the work. When I turn it, it will be on the right side of the work, and that will make sense in a moment if you're following along. So I'm just going to slip these, okay, and just move them over from one needle to the next, from my right to my left. Okay, super simple. Take your time. I tell people all the time, there's no rush. There we go. Just moving them over. This does not affect the helical striping in any way. Okay, here we are. Now, I'm just going to knit across to the other side and just finish these remaining white stitches with the purple yarn. Oops, did I split that? Let's do that stitch again. There we go. And now look at that. I am now in the perfect position. My contrasting color is here. My purple color is here and in the right position to pick up the stitches. As you can see, here are the purple, and I'm going to be picking up, once I'm working back and forth on the heel flap, I will be picking up the white slip stitches along the edge of the flap. Okay. Sorry about that. Life does sometimes interrupt these tutorials at times. I'm not sure if you heard the phone ring there. I just had to pause. Okay, so again, all of the yarn is now in the perfect position. So I'm just going to leave this purple and just let that hang out. All right. So I'm going to turn, and you can move the ball into whatever position works for you. And now I'm going to purl across, or purl back across these stitches that I just knit on. Okay, so let's do that. I slip my first stitch, okay, as if to purl, and I'm going to purl back. Yeah, so ignore what I said about slipping, doing the slip stitches with on the purl side. It's much better to do and easier to do that on the knit side because you would be purling all of those stitches anyway. So the first 2 rounds are just plain. You're going to knit a row, and then purl a row, and then we can start slipping on the next side. Okay, and I will do that with you. We're going to turn together. little more yarn. Okay, I'm at the end. Purl that stitch, and I'm going to turn. Okay, my other needle, other yarn is hanging out. Don't care about that. So I'm going to, I like to slip with my yarn in the front. Actually, nope, let's slip with the yarn this way. Sorry. And then I'm going to knit and then slip, knit, slip. There we go. Now I'm slipping as if to purl because I don't want my stitches to twist. If you'd like, you can slip them as if to knit, and what that would do is just twist the base so you'd have like a twisted slip stitch heel flap. Okay. Again, these are all fine details that, and knitter's choice, whatever you want to do. I just kind of like the rhythm of this, of just doing knit one and then slip one as if to purl. Yep. And knit my last stitch and then turn. And here's what I meant with not slipping on the purl side, because that slip stitch is waiting for me to purl into it. Okay, so I'm going to continue working the heel flap as well as the heel turn the same way that you would as your pattern directs. Just keep going, and then once we've completed the heel flap and the turn, then I'm going to show you how to continue knitting with your other color. Okay, so we'll be back in just a bit. Okay everyone, as you can see, I have finished my heel flap and I have done my heel turn. So now everything, all of my yarn is in the right position to pick up stitches along the sides of the heel flap and continue working in the round and working the decreases for the gusset. Now, before I continue, I have to give credit to Ellie, and she is of the Elementalist. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Ellie, if you're watching, thank you so much for permission to use, or rather reference your tutorial and link it here in my tutorial. Ellie is the one that I learned this technique from. This, I did not create this on my own. She does not teach how to helically knit. What she's teaching is how to position the yarn to pick up and work the heel flap and gusset helically, if that makes sense. So again, Ellie, thank you so much, and I will link to her tutorial in the description box under this video. So let's get started here. So I have finished my heel flap and gusset, as I said. My contrasting color is here. I'm not cutting anything. That is going to stay there. Now I'm ready to pick up the stitches along my heel flap using this yarn. So let's get everything into position for that. And I'm going to pick this up with the opposite end of this needle that I was working with. That end is going to stay out of the way, and I'm going to start picking up stitches. Okay, so I'm going to go in, and this I'm kind of doing quickly. I'm not trying to be that precise, but I always pick up an extra stitch in the intersection here. So we're going to do that. Whoops. There we go. And then I'm going to start picking up the heel flap stitches. And there should be one slip stitch. Of course, this is going to be a little fiddly for me here. Actually, you know what? Let's skip that one and just go right to the next, because that one wants to fight me here. There we go. Okay, so now I've picked up one, two, and if you're new to picking stitches up along a heel flap, you can find a much slower version of how to do this with full explanation here on my channel. Okay, so we're just going to work across. We'll do this in real time together. Okay. And what you're going to do, even though we are working to pick up our stitches, And we're using the purple color right now. We're still working helically because once I get to a certain point, I'm going to drop this purple color and continue with the white. So I'm actually not counting. So let's go back and count. That's 1 for my intersection, and then 2, 4, 6, 8, 14. Okay, here's 15, 16, and 17. Whoops. 17. So I've picked up 17 stitches plus 1 stitch for the intersection, so that would be 18 stitches. I'm going to push this needle in place because I'm going to now knit across the back of the heel. Just like that. And I had 20 stitches across the back of my heel. And I'm going to stop, just as I had been doing all along. I'm going to stop 3 stitches before, I'm right there now, before I change over to the white. And I'm going to slip those. There we go. Give that a little tug to neaten that up a little bit. I'm going to drop this end. I'm going to drop my purple. And I'm going to continue and pick up the other side. And just to give myself a little slack here, because I feel like I'm a little bunched up, I'm actually going to extend my needle. Okay, just to give myself a little bit of room. And I'm now going to pick up 17 stitches in the white along this side. Okay, going as slowly as I can here. So let's review so far. I worked my heel flap and the turn. My white yarn was on this side, my purple was on this side. I picked up the first half of the stitches along this side of the heel flap, the first set of heel flap stitches. I worked across my heel until I met back up with the white, slipped 3 stitches, and now I'm going to continue, and I just extended my needle. This is not part of the tutorial, I just needed a little bit more flexibility here. I'm going to now continue picking up stitches, so I've picked up 3. Here's 4. And this is a little hard to see for me because I'm trying to look through the camera, but we'll just do it together. Here we go. And what are you picking up? I'm picking up these slipped stitches right along the edge. Now it looks like there's slipped stitches here, but I'm turning all the way so that I can see the purl side facing me here. And I'm going, or the purl side or inside of the sock, and I'm going to continue picking up my stitches. And I'm not going to lie, as I've picked up, I have been known to fudge it a little bit if I'm off by 1. I will just grab a stitch from somewhere. Okay. Okay, I hope you can't hear that. That's my dog barking in the background. So I've picked up 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15. So let's grab 15. Here's 16, 17. And I'm going to pick up 1 stitch in that intersection. Okay. And there I am. Here we go. Here's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17, and then 18, that extra in the intersection. Now I'm just going to pull because I just needed that little bit of room. And now all of my stitches have been picked up. I am still working helically. So now I'm going to knit across. I'm going to just move my yarn so they don't tangle. And again, you don't have to worry about moving your yarn every single time. That makes this process sound very tedious. I sort of let them tangle a little bit and then I untangle as I go. Okay, now I'm just going to knit across my instep stitches. There we go. Finally got a rhythm here. Okay, is this not magic, you guys? I think this is absolutely magical. And it's so interesting. I searched and searched the internet and Ellie's video was the only one, her tutorial was the only one that I found. In my experience, there may be others out there, it's the only one that I found that was actually clear and helpful. Okay, so here I am at the end of the instep stitches. And I am back. So my beginning of round has now shifted to this side of the sock. Okay, and I'm going to continue now working. I'll do one more round with you. I'm going to continue working my decrease stitches and working the decreases for the gusset. There's a lot of stitches on this back needle here. So I just need to push them all over. Of course, they're fighting me a little bit. There we go. I've brought my purple yarn to drape toward the front just to keep it out of my way. And I'm going to continue knitting. Now I like to knit through. For this, I'm just going to slip, slip knit this first one. There we go. And then I'm going to knit these through the back loop. And if you have followed my tutorials, you know that I always knit this just the first round, because I always get that question. Do you only do it on the first round or every round? Only this first round. I'm going to knit those picked up slip stitches through the back loop. And what that does is it closes the gap in here. See how big that space is? It's much smaller here. I'm just closing that space and reinforcing this stress area. So I've already done one decrease right here, working across. Oops. Of course, my stitches are a little tight, but that's okay. I'm just going to continue working across here. Do one more round in real time for you to see. And if this is too slow for anybody, please feel free to hit that little 10-second advance button. You can just fast forward this video. Okay, so now I'm back to my back of the heel stitches. I'm just going to knit those. There's no reason to knit those through the back loop. I only knit the picked up slip stitches through the back loop. And I'm knitting across. And I will do the same thing. Once I get here, I'm going to stop 3 stitches before. Okay. Double checking my count here. I'm 3 stitches. I'm going to slip. Actually, I'm at a picked up stitch. Nope, I'm not. So now I'm going to pick up the purple, get myself a little extra yarn here, and I'm going to keep going. I think I had maybe 2 or 3 stitches from the heel, and now here are my slipped stitches. So I will knit those through the back loop. Whoops, splitting my yarn. This feels very clumsy, but bear with me. It's so interesting. You don't realize how close you hold your knitting to you until you have to hold it at a different angle. Okay. Let's keep going. Again, if it's too slow for you, just fast forward. If you've already got the gist of it, you can just keep on going. but for others may want to see it a little slower, and that's fine too. Okay, and I'm almost to 2 stitches before my instep needle. Here I am. I'm going to knit these two together the regular way. And now I'm going to continue working across my instep. So let's go back and take a look here. And as you can see, we are continuing. Look at that. Oh my gosh. The white line continues, the purple line continues, and I'm just going to continue working helically. Oh, is that not a thing of beauty? Look at that. Oh my gosh, the first time I did this, I was beyond excited. Look at how perfect. Ah! So you just keep going. You're going to continue to work a decrease round, a plain round, a decrease round, a plain round, and you're going to continue helically knitting. Finish your decreases for the gusset and continue down the foot. So I will meet you back one more time, about halfway through the foot, just so you can see what that looks like. We can get a better look at these intersections when there's a little bit more distance, and then we're going to work on the toe. Oh my gosh, wasn't that exciting? Okay, I'll meet you back in just a bit. Okay, everyone, as promised, look at this. I have finished knitting all of the gusset decreases. And here we are. Oh my gosh. Tell me that's not magic, you all. That is serious magic right there. If magic were real, this would be it. So here is, oops, dropped it in my excitement. So here is the left side of my sock. Let's really zoom in there. As you can see, the striping has not been interrupted at all. Here is the other side. Let's get the needles out of the way. And let's open this up. Again, no interruption with the striping. All of my decreases have been worked. And when you are working the decreases, when you get to an SSK or, as on this side, a knit two together, just work them in whatever color you are up to in that striping sequence. So if you're up to a white and the knit two together is there, then do it in that color. If you're up to the purple in this case, then do it in the purple. It really does not matter. You don't have to reposition. The only time repositioning may be an issue is if you get right at an intersection or you may be off by 1 or 2, but the way this is set up, that should not be a problem, okay? And you would continue slipping your stitches the same way, but here is what it looks like. So here is the, let's turn it this way so it's not upside down. So here is the helical sock with a heel flap and gusset. Completed decreases, and now I am just going to happily, let's see where my yarn is. So I have a purple here. Let's turn it around. My purple's on the back side right there. My yarn is in position here on the right side, and I'm just going to continue knitting right down on the foot until I get to the toe, and then I will show you how to work. Actually, on another sample, which I have ready, I will show you now how to do the toe decreases and eliminate one of the colors. But here you go. So we are almost to the end. It is time now to work our toe and eliminate one of the colors. So I am going to continue using the white as my contrasting color. And it just so happens that the white color is in the perfect position right at the right side of the sock to start working the toe decreases. Okay, now what am I going to do with this? It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. So I need to eliminate that. So what I will do is slide my needle into place. Again, does not matter what technique you are using. I'm going to push my needles into place. I'm going to slip these purple stitches onto my right needle because I need to get over to this working yarn so that I can continue knitting across and finishing this half of the sock. So let's do that together. And I'm slipping as if to purl. Okay, so now I'm there. Get my hand into position here. And now I'm just going to knit across these remaining white stitches. Okay, almost there. I hope you have enjoyed this so far. I hope things are clear. I will say this now and also at the end. If there's anything that is unclear, just please leave it in the comments below and I will try my best to explain. Okay, so now here we go. I am in the clear and ready to continue on my toe. I've counted my rounds. Some people like to put markers along the way to count their rounds. I don't mind counting. It gives my hands a moment to rest. It's personal preference. So I have now completed the correct number of rounds and I'm ready to start my toe. So I'm going to break this color. I'm going to break off the pink. It's actually showing up purple. Again, I've been debating that this whole tutorial. So I'm going to break this off. Move that out of the way. And I'm ready to start my decreases, rather not the decrease, but the toe decreases and start my toe with the white. So let's just start there. And you're going to work the toe decreases and shaping any way that you like. If you prefer a round toe, feel free to do that. If you want a wedge toe, if you want a circular toe, it really does not, anatomical toe, it doesn't matter. But I'm going to start that now for the sake of this tutorial. I'm just going to do a really simple round toe because I don't have to think about it. And I'm also going to weave in this end when I come around to the other side of my sock. So let's do that. So I'm going to start right away. And what you can start right away, but what I also like to do is just knit one plain round so that I can weave in that end. Okay, so I'm going to just work across here. Get to see me knit for a few stitches here. Okay. All right, and that last stitch is a little loose, so I'm just going to give that a pull. I'm going to switch to the other side. And again, don't worry, I will link to my weaving in tutorial in the description box under this video. So I'm going to hold this strand, the pink color, and I'm going to now weave that end in. So I'm going, let's start again. I'm going under the tail, and then when I knit the next stitch, as you can see, the now working yarn is coming up and over that pink yarn and locking that into place. So I'm going to repeat those two moves, under and knit, and then over and knit. And I'm going to do that for maybe 2 or 3 more stitches. Okay, I've locked that 6. Let's do one more. And you can do it for anywhere from 5 to 7 stitches. That tail is now, as you can see, locked in. I can drop that, tuck it inside. I'll clip that down later. And I'm going to finish working, whoops, across to the other side of my sock. So that one plain round will not affect the length in any way or in such a minimal way that it's not noticeable. And I have woven in my end. Don't have to stop and do it at the end. And now I am ready to start the decreases for my toe. Here we go. So I turn and I start working my first decrease. I'm going to knit one, I'm going to slip, slip, SSK there, left leaning decrease, and I'm going to continue to work across. Okay, now I'm not going to bore you with working the whole toe. I'm going to show you what it looks like on a finished sock. So let's put this down and I will show you a completed helical sock. So here is a completed toe on a shorty sock, also with a short row heel, shadow wrap short row heel, and here it is. This is what it looks like. Let's see if I can find the end. It's right about here. Let's open this up. Yeah, it was right about here where the blue yarn stopped, and I wove in the end and then started the decreases. But there you have it. That is just a simple rounded toe, and what I did here, I do have instructions for this round toe in my No Fear Shorty sock pattern, but I basically worked one decrease round, one plain round until I had 20 stitches remaining. And then I decreased every round down to 10, which is what works for my foot and my size. Decreased down to 10, and then I grafted or Kitchener stitched or Finchley graft, however you close the toe. Then I just close the toe on my sock and it is complete. And there you have it. There we go. So let's go back and look here. So then I will go ahead and finish my sock, but there you go. And there you have it. You have now learned how to helically knit your socks. Helical sock knitting or helix knitting. It is also called that from time to time. I've seen it called that. And now you're off to the races. Have a great time. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial today. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the description box down below. I will do my best to answer or clarify anything for you. I hope you enjoyed this. Hope you learned something new. Happy sock knitting, everybody, and I will see you again in the next tutorial. Thanks so much for joining me today.